and welcome to my Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 spoiler talk. If you haven't seen the movie, I have a spoilers-free review on the channel. You're free to check it out before checking out this one, or if you don't care about spoilers, welcome anyway. In this one, I'm actually going to start with the things I didn't like, because they are far in between, but let's talk what I mentioned in the spoilers-free review that I absolutely appalled. And that was the fact that they made Peter Quill a Celestial. Don't get me wrong, I had no problem with him being the son of Ego the Living Planet instead of being the son of Jasona Spartax. I don't mind that one bit. What I do mind is that they take away what fundamentally makes us love Peter Quill, aka Star-Lord. Because the appeal of this character is his relatability. We all on some level love music. We all on some level would like a bigger existence than being just a human and go out to space and meet many other aliens and different species and go across galaxies and maybe try and save them. And when you have Peter Quill, a human, finding out that he is the son of a king and a ruler of an entire planet, that changes his social status. And that's it. It doesn't take away from his humbleness as a human being. It doesn't take away the fact that he's cunning and that he doesn't have powers, but he can still be a hero despite that. Peter Quill is a hero not because he is Star-Lord, because he is Peter Quill. And in this film, when they make him a Celestial, they make him a fucking god. They make him a higher being than he already was. They take away his uniqueness. And yeah, he's probably one of the few Celestials that still exist, just like Ego, but ironically enough, that doesn't make him unique anymore. That doesn't make us relate to him anymore. Sure, he was grown as a human, but he's not a human anymore, and that takes a lot away from the character in my view. That's the thing I actually hated about the film, but thank God when Ego dies, he also takes away Peter's powers with him, and Peter now is just a human who has some celestial blood in his body, but he actually doesn't have the powers he had in this film, or as they call it in the film, the light. And I was pretty damn happy with that, because now we have the Peter Quill we have always loved without taking anything away from him. If anything, it actually enhanced that he was unique, the fact that he now doesn't have powers, but he can still be a hero just like he was before. Sure, now it's justified how he can survive touching an Infinity Stone, and I cannot complain about that aspect of the first film anymore, so good for the first film. Another aspect I didn't quite enjoy is how the movie didn't find where he wanted to go until the end of the second act. Sure, the thematics are there throughout. Rocket and Groot, Rocket being a mirror image of Yondu, Star-Lord and Ego the Living Planet finally finding his father, and his father finally finding him for nefarious reasons, of course. Drax always talking about his family as much as he can, and then relating on some level to Mantis. And also Mantis, as underdeveloped as she is, she still gets something out of this film. Hell, if anything, the relatability that Peter Quill and, in fact, the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy have to us in this film is for the fact that the perfect people that are the Sovereign, they get defeated by this mischievous family that doesn't get along whatsoever, and I actually like the fact that they all throughout the film get separated, but maybe that helped to detriment the movie a little bit, because that kind of took away from the movie from finding its stride until, again, near the end of the second act. You could see the connections between every storyline that was going on and the relationship between each duo or trio of characters, but until it gets revealed that Ego actually wants Peter to form this planet, not even counting the fact that he had other children and he took them to his planet and then he killed them because they weren't Celestials, that doesn't take away a little bit. What stopped the movie from finding a stride was the fact that they kept this mystery on Ego. Reveal a little bit throughout the movie and don't just leave the whole reveal till the moment it actually is revealed, because that moment when Ego reveals that he had sex with other aliens and he had found other children and he just wanted Peter for the light, it kind of seemed too heavy on exposition. On the second act, nearing the third act. And it also didn't help the movie that they kind of constantly went back to old jokes that were there building, and they had already been funny, and then they keep feeding onto them, and it wasn't really worth it. When Yondu and Rocket and Groot and Kraglin are jumping 700 clicks through space, and they have their faces popping out and growing, and then we stop that, we go a little bit back to Ego's planet, and then, before they arrive, we go back to that moment. Sure, the best Stan Lee cameo ever made in the history of film is in that moment, but the fact that they went back to that joke really didn't seem worth it, although I did laugh when Groot pukes. Another joke that took very long and didn't need to was that Yaru root that Gamora wanted to eat for some reason, and then it's not ripe, we get a little on with the story, and then she still has that in hand. Maybe she was really that hungry, and once again she confirms it's not ripe. I actually took a little bit longer than I wanted with the things that I didn't like, but I apologize. What I did love about this movie, the best thing, the best character, the best plot in this film, Yondu. My god. Yondu stole the whole friggin' movie. To me, it speaks a lot that Yondu stole this movie because I know that comic book readers don't know, and there's nothing wrong with that, but Yondu, in the comics, he is one of the original and also one of the future Guardians of the Galaxy. So how much he gives to characters and how much he takes away from characters and he himself grows due to that, it meant a lot to me that Yondu was so special to this film, that Peter Quill saw a new perspective of Yondu, that Peter Quill saw truly what Yondu had done for him, and we find out what Yondu had done for him. We knew that ever since the first movie. This guy wasn't just skipping Peter Quill because he was good for thieving. No, this guy loved Peter Quill on some level. He wasn't his father, but he sure was his daddy. And on some level, I love that we get to learn so much from Rocket and how hurt and tortured he is inside due to Yondu. When they have that confrontation and we see that Yondu is just like him, my god, you see how hurt Rocket is. And it actually mirrored as well one of the best scenes in the first film, that is when Drax and Rocket are arguing in that bar after they get a little bit drunk, and Drax just calls him a lab experiment, and we see how much Rocket is hurt there. Baby Groot is life. I cannot say this enough. Baby Groot is friggin' life. He is everything. Baby Groot, when he's trying to find a fin for Yondu to put on his head again, that scene brought tears to my eyes, not because of sadness, just like Yondu did, but because it cracked me up so much. And also when he's going for the bomb, to put the bomb in Ego's brain, in Ego's core, let's call it, it's so funny. It took the attention in the trailers, but it still works in here. And every time he is sad, or he is laughing, or he's doing something that he shouldn't, like distracting the Guardians when they're fighting that squid monster in the beginning, he is so friggin' adorable. Even Taserface, with that stupid name, can admit it. I love what Gamora and Nebula go through in this film. I love that Nebula is so much more utilized, and she means so much even when she is not in frame. That's when you know you have a great character, and that's when you know you have great character development, when a character doesn't need to be in the movie at all times, but you still see that that character is being developed and being talked about on some level, especially in the thematics of this film. Nebula was very misused in the first film, and I love Karen Gillan, and I love this character now after this movie, and I think she was one of the best utilized characters, as well as Gamora. It's dialogue and exposition on some level, but when they talk to each other about how they feel about Thanos and what he did to them as children, you felt it. You felt that this was deep inside the core of these characters and they were holding back their feelings. And it meant a lot to me that James Gunn waited and fed us this remorse that these characters felt and this anger that they felt inside towards each other, and then they just let it out suddenly. And I love how awkward their hug in the end is. Nebula is on a manhunt for Thanos, and I do believe that she is going to die in Infinity War. I actually believe, for better or worse, that as soon as Thanos comes into frame, he's going to bring Nebula and just smash her head right away or something, just to show Gamora what he'll do to his daughters even if they betray him. I was disappointed with Drax. I mean, every line of his here is funny, and probably the jokes that work in this film are funnier than the first film. At least most of them, not all. Drax the Destroyer doesn't fight in this film. He fights in the beginning, and as I said in the spoilers-free review, we almost don't see that fight, and he shoots and destroys a sovereign ship in the middle of the asteroid field. He has great scenes with Mantis, he has great scenes with everyone. Every word out of his mouth almost is funny as hell and doesn't stop being funny even after watching the film a second time. Even the moment when he's sitting with Mantis in front of Ego's castle or palace or whatever, and he's talking about his child, or talking about his wife to Peter Quill, or talking about how his parents talked about when they had sex and really gave birth to him even, you can see how much Drax has to develop. You can see how much more you have to this character. And I was kind of surprised because they hint at his development towards the whole movie, but they not only don't do a lot with it, but also they don't really even hint at how they'll possibly use Moondragon, Drax's daughter, in a future film. But now that I can finally talk about it, Ego the Living Planet, Ego, Peter Quill's father, Kurt Russell, he's the villain, and he is a great villain. He is a great character, and he is a great villain. The third act of this film, every bit of it happening in Ego, the whole character being a planet, is so cool. It looks so great not only in terms of color, color correction, color grading, in special effects terms. The action is excellent all around in the third act. I love the third act of this film. It's probably the best act of this film. It's the act that gives the most to the characters. It's the act that feeds into everything that we've learned and we went through in this film. It's the act when we get finally the ultimate piece of redemption for Yondu. It's finally the moment where we learn how Peter truly feels. The moment where Ego reveals to Peter Quill that he put the tumor in his mother's head. My god, that reaction was just friggin' flawless. I do have some issues with how Peter Quill reacts on some points, and they are really nitpicky, and I understand that this character is funny. He will do funny things. There is nothing wrong with saying a pun or two puns when you're sad. We learned that from Inside Out. And I know by now that a lot of people had problems when he turns those rocks into Pac-Man around him to go and clash with Ego as he turns into a giant form of himself and goes to punch him. It didn't really bother me, but I understand how it can bother some people. But on another hand, knowing this character and who he is, he would absolutely turn into a big ball of rocks in the form of Pac-Man. In fact, I would have never thought of that, but seeing it happening, it would actually be wrong of James Gunn not to do this. But one moment I didn't appreciate, and this is really nitpicky, I know, was when Peter Quill tells Ego that he's going to pay because he killed his mother and that he destroyed his Walkman. I didn't think those two elements of why Ego is going to pay needed to be on the same sentence. They didn't need to be on the same line. Peter Quill's pain is real. We know it, but we don't need the fact that his Walkman was destroyed. We already had a joke like that in the first film, I believe. I may be wrong, but I am 90% sure I am right on this one. We didn't need to know that he was going to pay for his Walkman. In fact, that moment where they're both kneel down on the platform of rocks and Peter Quill is just grabbing him and asking what is so wrong with being a human and not being a god, I think that would have been a great moment. Finally, then, now that Ego is going to die, he's going to pay for his Walkman, or when Ego really disintegrates and he's no more, Peter just says, that is for my Walkman. It would have been a great levity moment for the film. And now let's go to Easter eggs and leave the best one till the end. We have one Easter egg in the mid-credit scenes where Aisha is talking about the creation of a new Adam Warlock. Even though the Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't really have an original Adam Warlock, we've seen the Cocoon on the first film, but still, we now have a copy even though we don't have an original one. It's weird, but they can go with this in any route they want. I was so enthused when they presented this, and I am so ecstatic to even think of the possibility that Adam Warlock may be the foe in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It will be kick-ass, it will be fight from beginning to end. It's going to be spectacular, my friends. I was really excited to learn that Michael Rosenbaum was playing Martinax in this film. I was actually spoiled for that aspect of the film. Not sure about this either, but Ving Rhames plays this big, gigantic scavenger when compared to the others around him, and I'm guessing he is the Charlie 3000 version of the film, of the Guardians 3000, as well as Stakar, played by Sylvester Stallone, the original Starhawk from the original Guardians of the Galaxy. This was so cool. I really want to see more of this. One of my friends asked me if we were going to see more of him, and I couldn't tell her if we were going to. I really want to, but I don't want him to ever be on the team of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I hope to see him maybe as an ally in the third film against Adam Warlock with the other scavengers that he reunites by the end of the film in the post-credit scene, and they go with the Guardians against them, as to really make it something special and not just put him on the team and make the team grow even larger, because if Nebula even survives the Infinity War, I would like to see her join the Guardians of the Galaxy. And now we have Mantis, Nebula, Gamora, Drax, Rocket, Groot. Teenage Groot, my friends, is awesome. And Peter Quill, of course. And in that way, we'll have a solid team that is as big in numbers as the Avengers are, and we don't need any more. I would just really love to see Starhawk use his powers as well as the other Ravagers. But after so many years, it is finally confirmed Stan Lee is a Watcher in the MCU. I mean, he is asking for a lift, and he doesn't look like the other Watchers, but he's telling them stories. Stories that he witnessed, and he's telling them by the end that he's got so many more stories to tell. I really enjoy that. I really like that, and I would like to see how, if he is now confirmed to be a Watcher, how they evolve his cameos from now on in the MCU. But those are my spoilery thoughts on Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Let me know what you guys thought about everything that I talked about. If I forgot anything, let me know in the comments below. I'm sure I have forgot something. There is great development from some characters. The main MVPs are, as I said in the spoiler-free review, Yondu, Baby Groot, of course, Rocket, and Gamora, and maybe even Nebula by proxy. There are some underdeveloped characters, there are characters that are clearly developed, but I just didn't like at all how they were developed. Thank God it was negated by the end of the film. And we add another great villain to the whole spectrum of the MCU, and that is so good to say. But what did you think of Ego as a villain? What did you think of the Easter eggs? What do you think of Stan Lee being a Watcher? What do you think of the fact that we see not only the Grandmaster in the credits, but also Sakaar as they are making the jumps in the clicks throughout the universe? Let me know all that in the comments below, my beautiful geekies. You guys are the freaking best. I love you all from the bottom of my heart. Until tomorrow with my review for The Lost City of Z and many other reviews this week, including the return of Geek Classic, you stay beautiful and you stay geeky. And if you haven't done so yet, click the subscribe button and the bell, and we can be geeky united!